So chair.
Does it say their location on the two people in the hangout? Are they Columbus people or like anyone from RAD?
I don't know. I just see 2 viewers.
I see.
They're not sharing.
Hmm?
They're not sharing their screen or anything.
How are you streaming it?
You don't.
Through Google
Just
Plus Hangouts. We did it last time, and it was actually that was a learning experience.
We did it once, and then we had a bunch of different people.
Yeah. So.
Weird stuff.
Chapter led it.
Yeah.
Well, you can actually block it.
Yeah, so in this way, what we do is we only allow the presenters, it's usually Adam and myself. So I do the control board, so I say who's actually presenting, and then that ends up being the one that we say that. We don't open up, like no one, we just share the YouTube. So, alright.
Let it actually get recorded after it's finished.
Yeah, so then it'll be able to be shared. Alright. Alright, I guess we can get started, and thanks for everyone coming. I'm hoping some more people show up, but I know it's a crazy night around here. How many people is this their first Columbus Web Group meeting? Alright, it's a decent amount of people. So I guess I'll give the introduction to what Columbus Web Group is. So usually sitting next to me is Adam Weiss. Adam Weiss and I do these meetups once a month, it's sometimes 2 times a month, and it's all related to everything in the digital marketing, anything from user experience to design to development to anything technology or approaches, philosophies, methodologies, and the list goes on. Probably a bad name that we're called Columbus Web Group, but the idea is just to educate and get people speaking to other people that are passionate about what they do and to meet new people. So if you ever have a topic, you can always reach out to us on meetup.com. Adam and I watch that all the time, and we're always looking for more people to present. And if you have an idea, we'd like to meet with you. Usually we get a couple drinks and help you form your idea and your presentation. Even if you need like design or copy created for it, Adam and I are nerds when it comes to presentations, and we love to help people get in front of the group and present. And which brings us to the Omni-channel. So I worked with both Derrick and Jeremy at Resource, and I think that they are 2 of the smartest people inside that building, and they both work incredibly hard, and I, again, had the opportunity to work closely with both of them, and I learned a lot from them. So asked them, would you guys be interested in presenting on Omni-channel, and they both said yes, and I felt like that was a huge win for Columbus Web Group. So that's what I said. Yeah, so, and again, just reach out if you have any questions. Feel free to interrupt these guys. Yeah. And hopefully you learn something new. And that's it.
Thanks, Kevin. That was a good introduction. So we'll get started. And like Kevin said, feel free to interrupt. I'm going to explain some things and some concepts, but don't want to feel like we're just up here talking. Want this to be informative for you guys, and so if I start speaking marketing talk, feel free to stop me. I hope I don't do that. That's not really useful or helpful to anyone. So definitely want this to be more of a conversation than a presentation. But we'll go through some concepts, and we're both part of a new Omni-channel group at Resource. I think Resource saw the overall value in understanding what Omni-channel is as a whole. And so a little bit of what you'll see is kind of our definition and our take on what we think Omni-channel is, because it is so important in today's world, as you'll kind of see. So where we kind of started is like any place else you start. It's a Wikipedia definition. You can kind of see here omni-channel retailing, evolution of multi-channel retailing, but concentrated on a seamless approach to customer experience, all channels, including brick and mortar, mobile internet devices, computers, television, radio, direct mail, catalog, and so on. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, I don't really know what that means. One thing that we see everywhere is when you talk to someone about what omnichannel is, the word seamless rears its ugly head. I don't know what seamless means. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with seamless. That doesn't help me define what I'm supposed to present. So we took another crack and we said, okay, well here's another one we found on the web. Single channel, I get it, right? Everyone used to go to the stores and shop, and then you had the multi-channel where you could call somebody on the phone 24 hours a day, you could visit the store, or you could shop off of the desktop. But then we come to the omni-channel world where the consumer is at the center of everything. And this is supposed to make me feel good because I'm the consumer. I'm consumer first. The brand knows every single thing about me and every single possible channel that's out there in the world. But what does this do to help me? What is this? This doesn't prioritize. This doesn't understand. This doesn't explain anything about what I'm supposed to do because omni-channel is everywhere. Is that exactly what that means? I mean, at the end of the day, we just don't think everywhere is a good thing. Everywhere is not necessarily what consumers need. Everywhere isn't what's going to be important. So when you have a brand that tells you everywhere, this is a little bit of what you get. You get follow us, you get like us, you get talk to us, talk to our associates, sign up for our loyalty program, join this, tell us how we're doing, tell us how we're driving. All these different things that are all about, okay, I'm everywhere, this is great. Unfortunately, that's just really annoying. I don't want my brands to be everywhere. Brands that I love and retailers that I follow, I don't want them to be everywhere because that's not helpful to me. Because at the end of the day, and I hope everyone gets the solution, if you try as a retailer or a brand or a company to be everywhere, it's an arms race. Now, as an agency, Derrick and I would love that. You can pay us lots of money. We can go off and do lots of great things and build these wonderful, beautiful experiences that put on every single device, every single possible place. But what does that do? That doesn't do much for anything. And at the end of the day, you're going to begin competing against one another, and it really will become an arms race. So now this person has a wish list. Oh, I have a wish list. Oh, this person has mobile payments. Now I have mobile payments. And you just continue to battle against everyone in your competitive set to come back to the same thing. And at the end of the day, that's just not all that beneficial for consumers. Oh, and the reference to this is anyone has seen Dr. Strangelove. So the whole point of Dr. Strangelove is very funny, where it's like, oh, well, let's get our nukes in the air before they get their nukes in the air. And then it's like, oh, but while their nukes are traveling, we can launch our nukes, and after they destroy us, we destroy them. And you get to this point where it's just not beneficial.
It's one of the greatest movies of all time.
So we took a crack at trying to kind of explain what we think omni-channel is. So for us, really, omni-channel should focus on driving sales to all possible channels, no matter where they are. But you activate the touch points in the most effective way for the consumer or the customer, depending on your vertical. And we'll explain a little bit more about what this means kind of in the subsequent slides.
This, Wikipedia definition said it ended with the word software. Is this mainly the software channels, or it's
software is a part of anything?
Okay.
Software is exactly that. It's a piece of software.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our CEO Kelly Mooney has always said this phrase, and I was in a meeting with her one time, and somebody said something. And they said basically. Dove is also owned by the same company that owns Axe. And she said, how is it that the person asking the question said, how is it possible that that's right? But don't you think there's a little bit of a conflict of interest there to consumers? I mean, Dove is out there promoting this always-on beauty, real beauty to you, and Axe is out there and is pretty close to being a sophomore in college as you can get for a brand. And she said, okay, that's fine, but you're asking that question as a marketer. You're not asking yourself that question as a consumer. Consumers don't care. If I follow the Axe brand, do you think I care anything that Dove is doing? No. I mean, we see this a lot when you look at retailers and how they organize the categories at the top and they put juniors up there. Has anyone that's 14 years old ever called themselves a junior? No. And so the language I think is important that we always try to say is put the language in the terms of the customer. Does the customer care about software? No. The customer cares about experiences. They care about things that are tangible and real. How easy is this to use? How pretty does this look? Does this image scroll really big so I can see the details of the fine check pattern that's in it? That's what resonates with consumers, not software. Software is an enabler, the same as a device is an enabler.
Yeah, to add to that, to us, omni-channel is definitely a high philosophy. So technology is huge. In our view, technology is important, but it's not where you start with, basically. You have to know where to focus. You have to have priorities, and then you think about what is the right approach. And the software plays a huge part in that.
Okay, yeah, that helps a lot, because I was thinking of it more from a software side of things than that, so thank you.
So a lot of what we see when we work with the different brands and companies that we work with is you confuse an outcome with a strategy. Sales is the one thing that a lot of people always say, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm achieving, this is what I'm going after. And so you focus on sales as what the experience is. But that's not what you want. Sales is the outcome. Sales is what you eventually want your customers to do, which is buy from you. But the strategy for any one given touch point is a completely different exercise. Don't ever confuse what you're trying to achieve versus the way that you bring it to life. Because if what you're trying to do, bring it to life, which is largely what you see on mobile applications, is on-device conversion. If you look at most mobile websites and most mobile applications, it's all about on-device conversion. But at the end of the day, that's not what consumers are using them for. So you're in that circumstance, you're confusing to a degree what it is you want. Now, I'm not trying to say that sales isn't important. But, I mean, everyone at the end of the day is going to get measured on how much you can move the needle on sales. We just think in an omni-channel world, there's a better approach than to putting sales in front of everyone's face all the time. So we use a consumer. Yep.
Sorry, when you say on-device conversion, can you just say a little bit more about that?
On-device conversion is basically saying if I engage on a mobile app, that the whole point of why I'm engaging is to get me as a customer to buy on that mobile app. If I go to Facebook and I'm shopping some sort of social commerce thing, you're trying to get me to convert on that platform or on that channel. It's the main goal is sales and ignores everything else.
So I can add to that. Right now, marketers are confused by two different things: the omni-channel, the overall sales versus mobile commerce. So a lot of people are having this problem convincing their management to have a mobile site because they don't see sales coming directly to mobile devices. But to us, we don't want you to be held accountable for such small number. So based on forecasts, Forrester's forecast, mobile commerce won't be as comparable to the overall e-commerce. So, but we think omni-channel has such potential to actually bring sales to all the channels. So the incremental sales part is the benefit of omni-channel philosophy. So don't focus on sales that directly come from the mobile devices. Yeah.
It's short-sighted, basically.
Well, it's short-sighted and it's not very accurate. I mean, we've heard that REI is actually beginning to attribute local sales. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to, I think to summarize that point, is what you're saying is that mobile should be looked at not just as a closer, right, as the finishing the sale, but it can be looked at equally well as an influencer.
Yes.
And driving other sales and other channels.
First point of communication with the brand, middle point of communication with the brand. Sometimes it is the final. But if you're using the final result, which is a sale, to be a determinant of how well anything is doing beforehand, that's a big problem. That's the problem social has. Everyone's like, oh, what's social do for my business? Well, social does a lot for your business. But if you're using sales to be that metric, that's kind of a problem because you're not going to see it because part of it is you just can't make the connection from all the things that happen in the early parts of this to this one thing right here, which is buy. So this is a journey that we use at Resource. There's a lot of different journeys out there. McKinsey has a version. Forrester just came out with a version. And they essentially all say roughly the same thing. On the left of this one, search and discover, which is really about how you would hear about a different product in various different ways, whether it's more active, where I'm going out and searching through any variety of ways, not to be confused with search like on Google, but any way that I can search. Could be picking up a phone and calling somebody watching QVC for whatever reason. Discover is all about just kind of organically something coming to you. So potentially it's you sitting next to somebody at a soccer game and they hear about some new product, or you're scrolling through your Twitter feed and find the world's coolest sweatshirt or the newest phone gadget. Then you kind of move into assess, which at some level is all about making an evaluation within some level of a consideration set. Now sometimes that consideration set is a consideration of one, and it's a decision whether or not you want to buy. Sometimes it's multiple, and you begin to confer and talk to other people or compare to see what's right for you. And buy probably, I actually don't like the word buy because I actually think it's more important to look at paying and acquiring. There's two key steps there. One is, yes, I'm physically or virtually paying for the item, but also how do I get it? And in a single channel world, it was really easy. You went to the store and you picked it up and you walked home with it that day. In an omni-channel world, there's unlimited ways that you could potentially acquire an item whether it's you're in a store and like Nordstrom, they send it to your home, or you actually order something from Amazon and it's sent that way, or you go into a store, potentially even buy it on your mobile device and then go pick it up in store. A lot of different ways that can come to life. And then you kind of move into what's called the loyalty loop in some way, which is supposed to be a little bit of a circle, which a lot of we see examples of marketers don't necessarily pay attention to this back half of the journey. So after that purchase has been made, what can I do around consume? How can I help consumers understand how to use this product and potentially connect to other people to make it more a more powerful experience overall and an ownership experience? And then influence, which is all about tapping into people that potentially really like your brand, potentially really like the product, and get them to advocate on your behalf or even co-create to make it an overall better experience.
Jeremy, I have a quick question.
Yep.
So you just mentioned also different ways of acquiring. So one thing that came up, I want to say with the client is, you'll be able to guess, is reserve online, pick up in store. Now the point was they, in a discussion with the client, the feedback was we don't want to do shipping to the customer or to a job site because we want to pull people into our stores, which is a very kind of manufacturer perspective on the world as opposed to a customer-centric place, right? Mm-hmm. So how would you advise that customer? Would you say they're really set on this? They're like, hey, listen, we need folks in our store. We're not going to send it. We're not going to give them that option. That's cool.
I would say that then what the hell are you doing to get people into your store then?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, what do you think me blocking you from doing something is now? Oh, I can't do that, so now I'm actually going to go off and go into your store. No. Right. It's making a store an experience, right? You talk to anyone that grew up in the heyday of Macy's, or you talk to people that grew up in Cincinnati. I have a client that used to work at Macy's that works for Kohl's now, and he talked about the Macy's experience and walking into the store and how every single person treated you nice, and that the bottom 2 floors of the corporate office were actually a store. And if any associate that was at the top, no matter what your level was, whether you were a janitor to the CEO, if a customer needed help and you saw that they needed help and you were walking through, you had to help them. That's a store experience that just doesn't, I mean, what happens when you go to more stores now? I have more information in my pocket than the person that I'm talking to. Now, people like Gap have recently said they're going to raise the price of store associates, and you hear whisperings of other people following. But still, at the end of the day, I walk into the store, and it's the same experience that it's been for 50 years, but the quality of the service has gone down. And I think at the end of the day, is blocking somebody isn't a very open perspective, but instead is what positives can we introduce to really drive someone into our store.
It seems like a crazy power play, right? You have this thing, and you've bought this, and we're not going to ship it to you. We're going to make you come in because we want to. Whatever you think you want to
shit that we
so if you take it as an analogy to an online experience, all right, I picked out my items, they're in my shopping cart. Now before I go to my shopping cart to pay for it and check out, you're gonna have to I'm gonna have to go through some other screens so you can try to just sell me some stuff, right?
Right.
It's crazy.
Right.
So I always have a problem with this kind of thinking because this is largely ignoring the rules of economics. They're thinking the whole market is just us. Consumers nowadays have a lot more power. They have a lot more ways and options. So this is a pretty dangerous way to think about. Yeah.
Right.
So we've kind of, I think we can gloss through this, but really just understanding, think about the last time that you bought anything, and whether, no matter what channel it was, and think about that journey and how you got there, but think about how you first heard about it. Then think about what channel that was in, and then where you went to assess, and what channel that happened in, and what information you used, and then how you actually bought the good, and then how you acquired it, and then think about everything that happened afterward. Did you write a rating and review? Did you tell a friend about it through a social network? Did you mention how much you liked it? Did you go back to give it a 4-star or 5-star? Did you check on UPS.com to see how it's tracking? The reality is, in a single channel world, all the stuff used to happen in one of 2 places, either word of mouth or in store. In an omnichannel world, this happens anywhere, in so many places, and more so than anything else, after purchase matters more than anywhere else, because in the old way, when you left the store, the experience was over. You're on your own. And in an omnichannel world, there's so many tools that consumers can leverage from other people to learn more about products after the purchase has been made. Learn about a good store experience, hear about a bad store experience, hear people share what they bought, go online for more information to figure out how do I put this hair color in my hair, how do I build this over here, how do I use these instructions. I mean, it's just a completely different world that changes the perception of the brand and even of the product. So what we really think is drives best-in-class omnichannel is really optimizing each touch point to serve a very defined purpose. And what that purpose does is really focus on utility of the moment. So whatever, if you put your mindset into what is a consumer doing at that moment, as a brand or as a retailer, be there to provide utility for whatever you think that customer needs in that moment. But in the digital world, always make it possible for that consumer to go somewhere else and open them, be there with open arms, ready to receive them with the right information. But what this isn't very clearly is saying we're going to put everything everywhere. That's the main point that we want to say is you need to elevate the best experiences and the best parts of the experience to provide customer utility, but also let the customer go off on their own journey to connect in different ways to your brand. This is very much a lot like a responsive kind of web or responsive mobile experience where it's not about just replicating something that happened over here, but taking the optimal parts of it that need to appear and prioritizing them.
So who's doing it well? Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we haven't seen a brand that's doing a great job across the whole journey. But we found brands that are doing a decent job across in certain areas, certain part of the journey. So Sherwin-Williams is one of our clients, and we have long for years known that their pain point is their customers don't always immediately or easily know what colors they want, and it's very hard for them to describe and maybe carry the colors they want to the store. So we have developed a platform, we call it the Color Snap app. It's on iOS and Android. So basically using the smartphone camera feature to help consumers pick the color they see and directly match that color with the paint color number and then take that to the store. So last year we created this Google Glass app for Sherwin. So we make it even more intuitive to discover and search for colors. So basically what you see, what you like, is going to be sent to your account and then for you to take it to the store. So it's a great easy and frictionless way, and also fun, interactive way to help you pick the colors you like. And this is for Assess. Zappos is using all sorts of features to help a customer make a decision that's best for them. So they use multiple product angle views. They change based on the color you choose. And also they have demo videos. I wonder if you've seen that. They actually show and bend the shoes for you. They also use a very convenient and detailed user ratings and review for you to see how your peers review the shoes. And also they have a fit survey, like how many customers who bought feel this true to the size, is moving fit the wider. So all the efforts of Zappos did was just to help you make the best decision before you give up.
Derrick, can I ask you just your point on the reviews? I really like, I've not seen that before. Should check the numbers out. But have you come across anybody that like segments the review so that I can go in and I could say, hey, this is a person that's kind of like me, like almost like a
yes.
You have?
Yeah, some skincare brands they do this a lot. They'll pick because skincare they categorize skin by mixed, oily, dry type. So the reviewers, some websites, I think Clinique is doing that. They actually show you this viewer's attributes, reviewers' attributes, and you can also store reviews based on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
TripAdvisor is a stand-up example of it too. You can basically search on a couples trip, business trip, family trip, and get different. It will prioritize the results differently when you click on that personalization tab, and the ratings and reviews show up to basically help you kind of know exactly to match what it is, because not every hotel is the same.
Well, yeah, so it's like looking for somebody that's like me. Let's say they've got my demographic, and I get this nice warm fuzzy feeling without me having to do too much work. Like you're almost guessing what I'm thinking.
Yep.
Type of thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Then next. About buy, everybody's very familiar with Amazon. They keep rolling out ways to when you are thinking about a product, when you're interested, they try very hard to reduce the friction for you to just get it whenever you want. The pantry, the fresh, the partnership with the American Express, and also the locker, and the one-click buy, the same-day shipping, and also the latest one, we call that the social commerce, the partnership with Twitter, for you to directly send the product you see on Twitter feed, just send it to your cart.
Does everyone know about Amazon Pantry, what it is?
Yeah, I was going to ask about a couple of those. Yeah, I'm not sure about Locker or Fresh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Pantry is a program that they just rolled out everywhere. It's called Amazon Prime Pantry, and essentially up to 45 pounds, you can add items to that box for a flat rate, $5.99, I think it is, shipping fee. Whatever you can fit in that box, 45 pounds and under, they'll ship you for that price. Now, the big difference between that and things like Subscribe and Save is traditionally on Amazon, whenever you order stuff, it came in bulk sizes. So if you bought deodorant, it's like, great, I'm buying 12 packs of Old Spice. I don't need 12 sticks of Old Spice deodorant or 15 packs of toothpaste. This is kind of to help overcome that a little bit by stuffing items in there for a flat fee.
And Fresh is the produce that I think we're testing in Seattle and San Francisco maybe. So this is basically similar Amazon model, but with produce. And the locker, this was a little earlier. They designed this for people who don't have a big mailbox, or they don't have a secure mailbox. They ship it to a local location that you can just enter your passcode, and then to open the locker, the order is in there.
And membership reward stuff is if you've synced your Amex account and your Amazon account, is you're at the checkout page, you can literally just say, I want to pay with my points, and right there. There's no like, go over here, enter this in, you just pay with your points, and it's linked and you're done. Seamless, simple, really easy.
So overall, they're focusing very hard. I think you can see Amazon throughout the years, they're trying to get you to basically not think twice. I want it, and you click, it's already done. So there's very minimum friction. That's their focus. And the next, consume. This is Lego. Everybody knows Lego, knows what that toy does, but they enable the customers or the users to show you how they use the products, how they use the creativity. They enable them to show the community, this is how I created this model. So they create a very good way for consumers to exchange and also share. So it's a community, it's a way to basically amplify the use of your product so that you don't need to keep pushing the marketing messaging. You just see how other users are using it.
It's really clever because there's so many products that you could do that with. Lego's a really obvious one, but there's plenty of other ones. Like, for example, Sharpie. You can use that. They sell that on the basis of you use all the different services. Why not get people to show you all the services they write it on?
Yes. Yep. And the last one, influence. Pink Nation, they're very clever. They recruited a lot of university campus reps based on a region, based on each school, and they create their own regional, local social pages like Facebook. They actually start doing local events, local community. They use their own peers to spread the message to help generate customer loyalty. So this is a way to use your current customers to influence their own social network to help you push the messaging out.
Pink Nation is like a remarkably successful engagement program. They actually don't even call it a loyalty program at Pink, because really it's yes, there is points involved, but it's much more about getting, as Derrick said, these influencers, which a lot of times are people that you know, the people next door, to be the most vocal ones advocating versus Pink themselves as a brand, pushing it down on you. It's much more of Pink, the brand, is just providing the platform that enables all these different people to kind of go off in their own ways to elevate the overall Pink kind of girl. So what our kind of a key takeaway that we always say is, and we always kind of ask ourselves when we're sitting around in a brainstorm or what we're doing is what are we really doing? And for us, it's always about targeting behaviors and not tactics. And what we mean by that is whenever you're thinking about what can I do, it's not about can I come up with a mobile app, but it's about saying what problem is it that's out there for my customer that I can enable any number of technologies to potentially solve. And when you do that, it kind of forces you to put that consumer mindset on to say, what is it that I want to do? How can I do this? And then decide what devices and what technologies best enable and best solve that customer pain point. And this is something that we've really had to train some people around our own building to do, is to understand, it's not about saying I want a website. It's not about saying I want an app. It's not about saying I need a loyalty program. It's about saying, how do I bring this stuff to life in a way that actually helps our customers?
So, I mean, like targeted behavior demands that you spend a lot more time understanding your needs, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of time the data, the insights in the data, you can see from your same metrics, you can see from your current app usage. A lot of, from what I've seen from going to conferences, the brands are not very smart. They know a lot of information just from their own property.
I think one of the examples I know, just because it was a work example, but we were redesigning Wendy's.com. And on Wendy's.com, their nutrition page every day at like 11:30 to 11:50 had a ginormous spike in traffic. And this was not something that you went out there and said, like, okay, this is what we're looking for. It's one of those things that you stumble across. And the behavior was customers care about what they eat. And so Resource developed a nutrition-based app, which is a big shift for a QSR restaurant to focus on nutrition, because that's usually not a story where you're going to win. But the app was all about saying, hey, it's not just that we're going to replicate a nutrition page on a mobile website, but created a whole experience that made it easy for customers to customize their exact sandwich. Yes, I want lettuce. No, I don't want lettuce. I want tomato, no mayo, whatever. Or say, I can eat 500 calories today. Give me all of my options that are available for 500 calories. And it's a big shift where you're saying what we're doing in this place isn't saying we want to go out and build a web or a website experience, we want to build an app. It was about saying what's the best possible way that we can solve this customer behavior of wanting to know more authentic nutrition information.
And thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin was the big designer behind that. You can smile, Kevin. So going back to our definition that we talked about earlier, we added some colors here, and because for us there's really big three areas. The first, driving sales to all channels, is obviously about the brand, the company, the retailer, whatever way that you want to describe that. And we say the most effective way possible. For us, it really comes down to technology. In an omni-channel world, technology plays such an important role that you cannot ignore it. And the last, obviously, is the customer. So as we walk through these big three, what we really think is at the center, where these overlap, is where we really think is magic happens. And that's really where you need to get and understand, because if you go too heavy in any one of these areas, you start to run into some problems. You go too heavy in customer and you start giving away stuff for free, which long-term is not going to be sustainable. You go too heavy in brand, and I think you brought up a great example, right? If you're focused only on what you can do as a company, you're really ignoring your customers, and you're probably also ignoring the role that technology can play. And then the last is if you focus too much on technology, you get shiny object syndrome, which I think we've all, to a degree, have sometimes gone after. But when you're really trying to get breakthrough experiences with customers, you don't start there. You start with a mix of these three. So at each step, customers, what we really think is they need help guiding them through the journey. The whole point of what we think is you're trying to hasten the customer's path through purchase. So how can I get them to go from search and assess and quickly get them to buy and eventually become more of a loyalist for me? And then for brands, we see this a lot is you need solutions that don't reflect your organizational structure. You need solutions that don't highlight how you're built as a company, because you just see that everywhere. We do a big mobile intelligence survey, and we looked at loyalty. and about 1/3 of all companies actually displayed loyalty points inside of their mobile websites and applications. Everyone else that had loyalty programs, you had to log into a separate interface to do it. Now, from a customer standpoint, you clearly see that whoever manages the loyalty program and the house credit card program is over here, and the main brand is over here. And that's just a fragmented, broken experience when customers don't know that difference. Customers don't know who Alliance Data is. Customers don't care. What customers care about is, hey, I have loyalty points for doing all these different things. Why aren't they available to me? And the last one is we really think that technology needs to be brought to the table sooner. If you continue to throw things over the fence to creative and then throw it over the fence to technology and say, that's great, we got the best idea ever in the world over here, I have no idea if it's going to work, I have no idea if we have the infrastructure or middleware to support it, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it over the fence and hope that it gets put on the roadmap at some time to go ahead and implement. Big, big, big problem. But at the same time, what we actually think is it can never be the reason for any tactic or implementation. If you're only doing this because the technology enables it, that's also a problem. And that's something that I think everyone really is a challenge to understand. That this isn't a developer's thing, this isn't a strategist thing, or a company thing. This is something in today's world that everyone has to understand. Is the role of technology is more important now than it ever has been, and will continue to be that way for the next 30 to 50 years, until the next big thing comes along. Technology is just that important to enabling experiences. We don't want information that sits in a database somewhere else that no one else can access because it doesn't do anything. The only times it does something is when the consumer can touch it and feel it and experience it. That's the way consumers, that's where you're going to get to a consumer. So an example that we think is actually really good is Office Max. I don't know if anyone uses Office Max, I don't. But in doing the research, we came across this and I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. So on the Office Max mobile app, they have a section that you can kind of see at the bottom, which is for their Max Perks program, which is a house credit card. So you kind of log in on the landing page that you see inside of that separate experience, which does require a separate login, is your overall points and kind of where you sit and what you could potentially get. The next screen that you see is a form of a wallet where you can kind of aggregate different coupons, offers, different things, and reminders, about different products that you potentially want to buy. The thing that I think is the most cool about this is if you, for whatever reason, forget your house card, the Max Perks house card, you leave it in the car, you do whatever, you go in the store, you pay, you can actually pull out that receipt and scan it with this app, and it adds those points from that purchase immediately back into the overall loyalty program. This is a great example where this is a mobile-first, mobile-optimized experience because mobile is best optimized in the moment to just say, oh, here's my receipt, it has a camera, I just go like this, I add it, and it's done. And it's something that's not about replicating a desktop experience or replicating something else, but it's about saying, hey, customer behavior is all about mobile, and consumers, this is a great way to activate on that and do it. The last thing I like, which no one else, still have not seen anyone else do this, is they preview what your loyalty program will look like. They preview inside the app and say, hey, if you were to log in and join this Max Perks program, here's what the rest of this app will look like, and it just has screens that you can scroll through. That's an amazing thing. I mean, most brands don't feature their mobile apps in our experience, even on their mobile websites, mobile email. They just, for whatever reason, they do not talk about mobile. It's just replicating the desktop, and they often feature social very prominently, but very often they just forget to tell people that mobile experiences exist. So kind of to wrap up, I think what we think is really it's activating touch points in the way that's the most effective way possible for the consumer or the customer. It's really understanding what it is they need at each step of their journey and providing utility to do that. And it's targeting behaviors, not tactics, making sure that you're not starting with technology, but understanding the role technology can play in solving some sort of customer behavior or accentuating a positive of the brand. And the last step is finding the right blend of consumer brand and technology. And technology is really important. That's one thing that really I've learned in my time at Resource is, yes, strategy is important. I'm a strategist. Strategy is very important, but I can only do so much as what the technology enables. And really, when you get breakthrough experiences, we think is when you have a big mix of these three. That's it.
So, like, how do you guys measure measure omni-channelness? Like if I'm a small company, how do you, like I'm at stage 1 in omni-channel, how do I get to stage 2? Or like how do you measure that? I don't know if there is a measure.
Well, why do you want to measure it?
Well, how do you improve on it if you can't measure it? Like how do you quantify in terms of like the managers, executives, directors, they want to measure improvement. So I don't know like how do you measure omni-channel or if there is a measure.
To measure overall omni-channel, I'd still say it's sales, or depending on your organization may have something different at some point, maybe leads or something like that. But what we actually say is okay, that's the end goal, but what are my sub goals, right? So maybe on Facebook it actually is increasing followers. I don't know that that's actually that great, but maybe you want to say is what I want to do is to measure my effectiveness of social media. Is I want to see on posts that are all about inspiration for discovering new outfits. How many click-throughs do I get over time? How many click-throughs to my desktop? And so I get some sort of number there. But if I can get that first number, well, then I can say as well, 50% of the time, if I get them to click through from Facebook, I can actually get them to convert. So you can look at that kind of first-level metric and begin to improve on that and say, what actually needs a better content strategy.
Okay. So it's kind of organic where, depending on the company, you can set your own goals and you can follow kind of some principles of omni-channel that help get you to whatever your goals are.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Realize we're up here, but have a bunch of touch point specific goals that you need to track to make sure that you're improving on those over time.
Okay. You can also track like how your customers are actually moving from this touch point to which the next, and also how much of sales was contributed from which of the channel. You can segment or look at the local smaller goals. Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering if technology is the right word for this. Brand consumer isn't really conduit for communication or interaction. Technology is just one part of that.
Certainly fair point. I mean, I think in a lot of ways you're right. Technology is not the only way that you can do it. What I would say is it is different in an omni-channel world. Is very few brand level decisions and interactions are not going to involve a piece of technology. Even picking up the phone and calling a call center. Imagine if I picked up as a consumer, called a call center, and they at the other end knew that I'm a very vocal, positive not an influencer, I hate that word, very positive poster on social media, where I've said a lot of great things. I follow you. Like I'm a big fan. I think the other person on the other end of the line would like to say, well, yeah, hey, I see that you post a lot. There's ways that you can improve that experience with technology. Very few times is there going to be an interaction that doesn't involve any level of technology with a brand on the other side with the consumer. But I think it's a fair point. I mean, sometimes store associates need to just kind of sometimes have a realistic conversation and be real, and it's more of a communication versus a technology play.
I wanted to ask, on one of your slides, you made you used the word all, like all channels, sales for all channels. And I just wanted to ask about that a little bit, because does it sometimes make sense not to be in all channels? Because I think of something like Bang & Olufsen that we looked at as a part of a competitor set for another client, and they were like they limited customer choices. Again, it's another example that driving people to their stores because they really want that salesman interaction to really explain.
Yeah.
It's like if you work at Rolls-Royce. Same kind of thing. You probably want to make sure you have a one-to-one person-to-person interaction, and you drive people to that experience so that you
totally.
And it's I also hate to use this business term, the competitive advantage. I think a lot of brands like Nordstrom, they don't use technology in a way that they lose this. So they'll make sure actually all the technology actually direct the customers to a face, to a voice. So they are not going to lose that because there are new technologies.
I think it's all of your channels. I mean, I think it's the other part is yeah, I definitely don't recommend that you would say go into every single channel. No, I mean, it's all of your channels.
Yeah.
So like the REI example I started was they're attributing an online sale, mobile or desktop, back to the local store, and beginning to say that we're just going to aggregate those together. To say that this area has won, instead of saying, desktop had this or mobile had this, and very siloed, but saying we weren't trying to increase overall our piece of the pie. But yeah, no, don't want to say that you should be in all channels. I mean, mail order and any of that stuff, no.
And it's actually some very difficult decisions because I remember looking at Bagnall 2 years ago, and now looking at them today. And 2 years ago, they didn't sell any of their stuff online. Today, they have a lot of business online. So they're like, you know what? Let's sell some more shit to some people that actually want to buy our stuff.
I think it's crazy how fast industries change. I mean, glasses. 2 years ago, glasses online were not something that anyone did, and now that's a completely different story. 5, 10 years ago, you didn't buy shoes online. I mean, what's next? There's going to be something that's next, and Amazon is hoping that it's your grocery store trip. It's kind of remarkable what all is shifted online to different things that retailers have tried to do.
So how do you guys go about talking to a client that's really against all of this idea?
Well, it's a give and take. I have to be in business too, so no. I mean, I think you try to push is where you can. At the end of the day, you can't move a behemoth organization. I think what you're beginning to see is that the things that we've been saying for 2 years and 3 years and 4 years, retailers are beginning to feel themselves. Where, I mean, Amazon's growth, you can't hide it. I mean, you have to address the fact that Amazon is now present in so many different categories that they never were. And so it's like we've been over here saying it, and finally it's like, okay, yeah, it's starting to hurt your bottom line, where people don't care. Now, not all companies are like that. I mean, there's a lot of our clients that have been still very successful, being completely siloed, not doing this, but I still believe that someday that number is going to change, and we keep trying to beat the drum to say you should do this, that, and the other, and get out ahead of it versus being behind it. But I don't know. I mean, it's a tough thing to say to somebody is hey, you're doing it wrong, especially unless you're big Deloitte Consulting and I'm having a conversation with the CEO of the major company, and I'm going there and saying like, hey man, like you might want to watch it, right? Like Nasty Gal is coming in a major way. You ignored Nasty Gal forever, and she's here. Nasty Gal's a brand. I don't know if anyone knows what Nasty Gal is an online brand that sells fashion at a pretty high price point, actually. Unlike fast fashion, which is much more of a lower price point, Nasty Gal is coming out and selling at like Abercrombie of old type price points, and it's online only. And they've been remarkably successful.
Nasty girl.
Nasty Gal. Be careful if you browse. They retarget.
Nasty Gal.
They retarget all the time. I mean, I cannot get rid of Nasty Gal ads.
Nasty Gal does a great job.
It's one of these things where they said like we're just going to do it, and we're going to do it this way, and we're going to be very digitally led, and here's how we're going to do it, and we're going to take over the market. And they came in when fast fashion is what everyone's saying I want to do at lower price points, get it in, get it out, and said no, we're going to charge higher price points, and they're doing it. J. Crew's another one. I mean, J. Crew, as much as I hate J. Crew's digital technology because it's terrible.
All J. Crew.
And then J. Crew kind of reinvented themselves to do a higher price point stuff, but I think J. Crew's positioning themselves for a sale.
So Jeremy and I have been talking to clients starting from maybe 2 or 3 years ago. We gradually started to see the changing of climate. We used to have to try to convince very hard for brands to even consider mobile, but brands, I think starting from last year or a year and a half ago, they started to wake up to the fact that, oh my God, more than half of my traffic came from mobile. What should I do? They started to wake up to, I need to catch up. So we are facing a totally different set of questions now. It's more about priority. What do I do? How should I do it? It's a lot less about if I should do it.
So I would guess that you still have a lot of customers coming to you and saying, we want you to do our mobile app or our mobile site.
Yeah.
And they've got 8 other agencies doing all the other pieces of what you're saying ought to be knit together. How do you, kind of from the business side point of view, How do you approach that problem?
We always try to go back to say, I think that you should do it this way. And it's much more of a singular way. So if it's, hey, I want a mobile website, we say, well, you should do a responsive website based off of what your main website is. We think that's the way you should do it. And we're not going to hide, and we're going to be very clear about it up front. And if they say, usually, that's great, but I still want my own website, we say, okay, we'll do it. But you have to push and slowly push and keep pushing it. But we try. I mean, we really do try to say, as a best practice, here's what we think that you should do, and stick with it. Sometimes we're successful, and sometimes we're not. But it's a mix. And actually, more times than not, we are successful in convincing someone to do something a little bit different.
Question?
If you really believe that that's what they should do, why would you take the job and do it anyway if you don't believe it's the right thing for them? With like the responsive web versus like
Totally.
So I know like some place would be like,
why didn't
we think we think this is what you should do. We don't want to do that. We need to do this. Great, find someone else to do it. But you said, oh, we'll just go ahead and do that. I'm just curious from a business standpoint, like what's the rationale there?
If you're asking me, it's because that's the agency mindset. Think about it, what it takes to start up an agency, right? I could walk tomorrow and start Jeremy Jacobs' agency, buy an office somewhere, and say that I have the skill sets than anyone else, right? Kevin Mack could leave tomorrow and say, I'm a development agency, here's what I do, and actually could do a pretty good job of it. There's no barriers to entry for an agency, and so it's such a hyper-competitive environment that agencies haven't gotten to the point where we're saying, look, enough is enough. Like, I'm not doing this stuff for you. I'm not going to pitch for you and give away free ideas to do this, that, and the other. I mean, I just think it's you have such a hyper-competitive group of people. You see this in consulting too sometimes, where a lot of people now are moving away from big retainer-based payment mechanisms to pay for performance all around a certain criteria, or they're outsourcing certain parts of it and only willing to pay consultants not on an hourly basis, but on a percentage of growth, whatever they hit on. And I think it's an industry that's in dramatic change. That eventually to get to the point. I wish we were White and Kennedy. White and Kennedy does exactly that. They will go to somebody and they say, I want this. They say, you're crazy. We're not going to do that. Have a nice life. And that's fortunate that they're able to do that. But most of the companies that I interact with, there's no way. I know resource. We can't afford to do that. We'd love to say yes, but
that's what I do. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't take work that I don't believe in.
Yeah, that's a really good question and comment. I mean, from a developer's perspective, like I usually do development. I usually let somebody tell me what to do, even though I don't really believe in it or go with it. I'm kind of putting my trust in someone else where you're the business, you understand what you want, and sometimes the customer isn't always right, but as a developer, depending on what kind of perspective you're taking, kind of do what the requirements say you should do. I counter that a lot with user experience stuff. Like, I think the user experience is stupid, but I'll make it happen. So.
Well, I feel like there's actually a
very good
shift
very
in
good
the whole model, especially from client to agency or client to customer. They're realizing that something that they kind of turned their back on, which was technology, and then all the pieces and the growth of everything. They're realizing that they have to catch up. But in the agency or the selling models, an external consultant or agency talking to the client, they're like, well, there's money that needs to be made here. And everyone knows, and it's like, oh, we're best interest for the customer. But everyone wants to make money. But it's the idea of selling the right customer experience to the person at the lowest level where they can understand it. And that's the huge gap that isn't really met yet. It's the technology's there, they know they need it, and you need to sell something and make money. But how do you actually make the best experience for that customer? So I'm complete with you. I don't want to do anything that isn't based around the customer.
I think it's a like a company strategy question, because it's like saying Berkshire Hathaway, they stuck to their guns and everybody's buying .com shares, and it's not. We don't do that. We don't believe in that, and they won out in the end. But could it go the other way too? Yeah, maybe, and it may still. So I don't know. It's like both ways. They're just different strategies. Yeah, I mean, there's no right answer or wrong answer. Hey,
That's what I was curious to hear.
Kind of
Like,
pick your poison, right?
it was interesting. I was at IA Summit in San Diego a couple weeks or a month or so ago. There was a panel discussion around sort of people that ran small studios, and one of the questions came up was like around growth. And one of the Andy Budd, who runs the studio, Clear Left, he was saying, you know, like, look, we don't grow because we don't want to, and we want to stay small so we can refuse jobs and not take work that we don't have to take. We only want to take work that we believe in. And blanking on her name, the woman that runs MadPow, was sort of the opposite. And her perspective was, we want to grow as quickly as we can because we want to be able to, we think that we're impacting the world in a positive way, and even if the project isn't perfect, we feel like we're making an incremental improvement, and so we want to get as big as possible, as soon as possible, so we can have as many jobs as possible, so we can impact the most number of people, right, and have reach, right, and that was her driver. And it's interesting to hear the different strategies and perspectives around why you do the work that you do, and so I was just struck by your answer. It was so abrupt, so I was just curious around, like, how do you pick the jobs that you take, and why do you do the work that you do?
Well, I think it depends on how the agency is structured. I mean, if you're a partner to a client, then obviously you're going to take that position of saying, we don't think that's the right choice, you know, we're going to go somewhere else if you don't do it that way. But there's a lot of agencies that are more vendors, right? Quite frankly, the client will come to them saying, I want this. And the other answer to it is, you know, we've worked with a really big retail company here in town, and we knew that their strategy was completely flawed. But it's one of those things where it's like, would you rather be in the stream and have the opportunity to do the right project down the road, or do you just jump out now and you're just out, you're away from the table? And in this particular client, it was actually pretty amazing that they were as big as they were and not having a good mobile strategy, and they just weren't open to a lot of the things that were going on. If you explained Omni-channel to them a year ago, their heads would blow up because they're still trying to meet the demands of the holiday season or whatever the case may be. So.
I think that's like the biggest thing is also the education of the client. And I think in this industry, and probably everyone that we showed up tonight has some idea of Omni-channel, probably even do a small group discussion, lead a small group discussion on it. And our clients, the clients that you work with, don't necessarily have that capability or knowledge. And everyone always has that like, fear of saying like they don't understand. And in the traditional agency or consulting model, consulting's a lot better at this. So, is if someone doesn't know, you ask them like, "Are you sure you know what I'm talking about right now?" And then let's take the time to actually educate you on this before we try to sell you. A lot of people are trying to sell things that people don't even know that they need or want. They don't even know what it is. You're like, whatever, we're here to do that, and in reality, they're not, or they're completely wrong.
Yeah, I like that topic discussions. There's so many different perspectives and ways to look at it, and it's difficult, and it always depends on it. But it comes down to encouragement and guidance. You can only do so much to encourage someone in the right direction. They'll still take their path. Come on, it's great.
I do think, though, I mean, I've heard that a number of times, too, where people say, you know, well, if you don't agree with what you take it. And I think sometimes that is very genuine. I think sometimes it's also just positioning, makes it client feel that, oh, well, wow, must be the right I feel privileged to be working with you.
Opportunity cost too. Like if you say no to them, what else is there? Very good.
You guys just stood up there as that ping-ponged around. You guys have anything else? Any other questions?
Very good, thank you.